do something better for yourself, for your family. Make, some changes, make some decisions, get off the fence, do some things. And I think it's a great time that we're going to see some great things happen over the next, short term. And it's going to be great for short-term rentals.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with Whiskey Wednesday with Mr. Dave Savolich. What's up, brother?
Hey, buddy.
Ready to go? Ready to go today?
Heck
Big
yeah.
day. Those of you that are joining us, Whiskey Wednesday are short, sweet, to the point episodes. We're going to talk about some things going on in our world. You guys send in some questions. Dave always has questions that we're going to answer. But we have a big day today, a big change last night, right?
A little chipper in our step, a little optimism on our side of the world.
We're pretty optimistic. We feel like the future looks bright. We think that some good things are happening. We had
What happened?
Presidential election, right? So we had every 4 years we get to exercise our right to vote and put somebody, keep the current administration in, put another one in. And I think the American people are looking for a change. And I know those of you listening, you're not listening to Dave and I as a political show. And so, and we don't talk about that very often. But I do think it's really important to stay abreast of and keep yourself informed of the things that are going on as far as policies, some likely changes that are going to be happening that really will affect us as investors. And if you're a high income earner, you're an investor, there's very likely changes coming to tax codes, to some incentives out there. And we'll talk about some of those. And I do think that, hopefully we help you stay informed of the things that we're looking at, and we obviously, I hope and pray every president succeeds, right? And, there's also so many people, every election, half the people are disappointed, half the people are happy, right? And, and we always pray and hope that every president succeeds. We love this country. We love the opportunities that we have and that all of us are presented with. And so when it comes to a change, we're looking and saying, okay, what are some of the likely changes? What are we going to possibly be looking at when it comes to our portfolios? Let's stick on those topics today, right? And talk about some of those things. Like I think that there's a lot of changes coming, but we won't talk about, we'll leave some of the other changes to the side for other people to talk about that are a little bit maybe smarter than us. But these tax changes are a big deal, right?
Yeah. Well, and I love the democratic process. It gives us all an opportunity to vote, to, speak our mind and vote for who we want. And the democratic process and the economy and this capitalist market kind of writes itself. When it gets to a point there where people are frustrated and, they're kind of feeling it in their wallets and when they go to the store and gas and all those things. And then it writes itself. I mean, the stock market has done amazing things. It's an all-time high today and it's gone crazy because of the optimism and people are excited.
Right.
I think that's a great thing. Whether you decide that short-term rentals is right for you or you decide you want to look into Vodacy and do something better for yourself, for your family, make, some changes, make some decisions, get off the fence, do some things. And I think it's a great time that we're going to see some great things happen over the next, short term. And it's going to be great for short-term rentals. So,
yeah, I think it is. And I think more like what you just touched on, there's a lot of people, this election cycle, every election cycle, people sit on the sidelines. Every election cycle, people are sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen. And I've never really quite understood that because regardless of what we're doing, we're going to keep moving forward, right? But people sit and wait. And this one, maybe there's a sigh of relief that, okay, now I can move forward. Right. Maybe you're like, whether you're for Trump, against Trump, at the end of the day, you kind of, the field you're probably going to be playing in, right? And you can make strategic decisions. And at the end of the day, you got to move forward. We've all got to move forward. And so that time of kind of sitting and waiting and seeing what's going to happen, hopefully this gives people permission to say, okay, now I'm good. I know what I'm dealing with. Like I always, when we talk about policies, I'm huge into like you guys, the people who have listened to us for a long time, they've heard me say, I don't invest in left-leaning areas. Because of the policies, right? Because I don't want the rules and the regulations and some of those things that they place on me. Running a business, running and operating short-term rentals is hard enough. And so I try to mitigate my risks, but my tolerance on certain things is going to be different than somebody else's tolerance, but we're still trying to play the same game. Right. And when I look at the policies that are likely to change, if I was a farmer, think if I'm a farmer and I've got to provide for my family and I've got to, grow my own food and I've got to produce and everything else. And all I've got is, soil that's really rocky and sandy and it's not that fertile. I have to work it a lot harder to produce, and get my food to grow and everything else because it's just not great soil. I'm still going to grow my garden, right? I'm still going because I have to eat, right? And I'm going to do it. When policies, that would be like when policies aren't really in our favor. We're still going to move forward. We're still going to do it. When policies are in your favor, think of it, you walk up to a field and it's really dark soil. It's super fertile. It's easier to grow stuff. My garden is just, I don't have to tend to it as much. I don't have to water it as much. It's in an environment that I can grow my food better, faster, stronger. And that's what I look at that we're walking into now. We're going to be in an environment that we can take advantage of. It's going to be more fertile for us because of the tax advantages, because of some of the incentives out there that are going to allow us to continue to grow these portfolios at a faster pace.
Right.
And a really good, there's two things that are big on the docket that are likely going to be, addressed. And one that affects us is, and these both affect, the first one, capital gains, affects even average everyday Americans, right? Whether you're an investor or not. And capital gains is a big deal. And, our largest expense over our lifetimes is taxes. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And they're hard to understand. They're changing all the time. And I don't blame them, right? And none of us like to talk about or think about taxes, but it's going to be the largest dollar expense you have in your lifetime. So we should pay attention to it. When we have the ability to say, okay, there's going to be an environment coming out of really rocky, sandy soil into more fertile soil. Why is that? What fertilizer was put in? What kind of soil changed? And some of the things are on the tax side and the incentive side. Capital gains is a big one that's likely to change that people should pay attention to. The next one is bonus depreciation. Bonus depreciation has been phasing out, right? It started phasing out in 2023, and this year we're at 60. Or it started phasing out in 2022, where this was the last year we had 100%. Now this year, 2024, we're at 60% bonus depreciation. Next year's at 40. 2026 is at 20, and then it's gone, right? That's the current. That's what's in place.
Plan, yeah.
What this means as an investor, if you're a high income earner, bonus depreciation. Most real estate investors understand bonus depreciation. In our world of short-term rentals, there's what we call the short-term rental loophole, where if a property has less than 7-day average lease length, so if you have a lease length of less than 7 days on average throughout the whole year, that means you're going to qualify to be able to materially participate in this property and be able to bonus depreciate and write off all that depreciation against your active income. If you're a high income earner, that is a huge, huge deal, and it allows you to accelerate your progress and your investing journey. I'll give you a real example of what that means, right? And so I bought a property a couple years back in 2022 when we had 100% bonus depreciation. I bought that property for $800,000. I put 20% down. I put $160,000 down. I qualified as a material participant. We ended up doing a cost segregation. Through that cost segregation, the cost seg experts gave me that report back, and I got to take the IRS and said, hey, babe, by buying this property and cost segging it all out, I had a write-off of $244,000 and change that I could actually take as a write-off against my active income. So now I go and my active income is here, and I get to say, okay, now I've got this $240,000 write-off at a 39% tax bracket. That write-off saved me from paying $95,000 and change in taxes. So that $95,000 made it to where my $160 into that property, I reduced my taxes by $95. I'm only into that property net $65,000. So now I got $95,000 back into my investment bank account because I didn't have to pay it to the IRS, and I can go put it in and buy another house. And so you can really accelerate your progress by being able to take advantage of these strategies and being able to understand these strategies. So there's a lot of business owners, there's a lot of investors that are saying, hey, listen, I'm really excited about some of these policy changes because this is what it's going to allow me to do. Instead of me having to save up, in that case, $160,000 every single time I want to duplicate that run, I only have to go now, I have to save up another $65,000 every time. That's a big difference, right? And so those policies are a big deal when we're trying to grow our portfolios. And there's a lot of different things that we should pay attention to. And what it allows us to do is allows us to go put it back into the economy, right? Go hire more people, go buy more properties, which every one of those properties employs additional people. And it allows us to continue to go. Like one of the things that the arguments I hear about capitalism, and I'm a huge capitalist, I think like what you were mentioning before is the markets are going to take care of themselves. The pendulum is going to swing. Markets are a very unforgiving place, and people will speak with their dollars in their pocketbooks, right? And they'll say, hey, listen, we're either going to support this or we're not. And it is very unforgiving at times. And when you say, okay, like the argument on a capitalist is say, we need to tax the rich, and we need to have all these rules and regulations and all these restrictions on what they can and can't do. We need to tax them more. That doesn't work, because what happens is, why don't you use the greed to your advantage? If your argument is capitalists are super greedy and everybody's going to make more money and they're just going to put it in their pocket, they don't. The only way for them to keep making more money is to go hire more people, build more factories, put it back into investing, paying people more, finding the best talent, doing all of that. And so that's the only way they make more money. So if that is true, and your argument is they're all super greedy and all they want is money, well, use that to your advantage and let it spur the economy. And I think that's what a lot of these policymakers are saying is, hey, listen, the market will take care of itself. The bad actors are going to get found out anyways. They're going to be out of business, right? That's not how business works overall. And so, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited about the policies that are most likely coming, because Trump was elected. The Senate is going to be Republican, and Congress is Republican. So knowing that, you have to navigate. And there might be other things that you're worried about, or that aren't going to be as favorable, that feels like we're now, there's certain areas that might be going from really fertile soil to sandy soil. Well, you have to navigate that as well, right? As investors, we're navigating that all the time. You're going back and forth and the pendulum is always swinging back and forth. And it's a good thing. That is a good thing. Like, I don't think that unless you're really far right or really far left, there's a lot of really common sense Democrats, there's common sense Republicans, and we all naturally want mostly the same things, right? And naturally we keep each other in check, which is a really good thing. I don't want one party that takes over everything, either side of the aisle.
Like we've talked about, competition is great.
Competition is awesome.
A good competitor, and both sides need to excel and need to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. And so, this isn't, again, it's not a political show, but it is to say, hey, listen, like Wayne Gretzky says, I don't skate to where the puck is, I skate to where the puck's going. Recognize where the puck is going. As an investor, get your ducks in a row and start doing what you need to do to start putting yourself in a position to accelerate and succeed at a high level.
Yeah, good. No, I love it. I think it's great. I think you got to take action. And we'd love to have anybody that's considering, joining Vodyssey or being a part of this program. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to decide and really go down the path to see if this is a good fit for you. So if you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking about, hey, short-term rentals, let's talk. Email us at support@vodyssey.com and let's get on the phone and let's see if this is right.
If you're a podcast listener, email support@vodyssey.com, say I'm a podcast listener, and I will personally block an hour of my time. If you're new to this game, you guys realize I started buying short-term rentals in 2006. I've been investing in real estate since 2000. I can help you navigate. When I say get your ducks in a row and start skating where the puck's at, I would love to sit down with you, have a strategy session, and I'll offer that up to any of our podcast listeners. I'll open at least a few hours, every single week that I can do that, and we'll make it happen. So email us at support@vodyssey.com and let's chat about it. Let's have a strategy session about it.
Awesome. Good. Well, we have a follow-up from last Whiskey Wednesday about your Halloween costume.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to know, we didn't get exactly what you were going to wear because you didn't know at that time. But, inquiring minds, they want to know what's going on.
I mean,
over at the
now I don't get to know in my family. Teresa and White and Grace, they already know what we are next year. They already know what next year's plans are by now.
They already talked about it.
This is a big deal. Halloween's a big deal at our house. And, and being able to say, okay, listen, we're going to have a themed family Halloween costume. I used to veto a lot of stuff. I used to complain about it. And Teresa says, nope, you don't get to say now. You come home from work, your costume is going to be on the bed.
Could be silk, could be corduroy, could be whatever.
Did you see Giannis? He came at an interview and he was dressed up as the Potato Man. And they were like, what's about the costume? It was on Halloween. And he said, are you married? And the guy's like, yep, I'm married. He said, you understand. He said, if you're married, you get home, your wife says you're doing this, and you say, okay, honey, and you put it on. And that's exactly how I feel. And so this one was pretty easy for me, though. We were the Ghostbusters. And so it was, I had a basically just a brown jumpsuit, some boots and a hat, and
That's awesome.
I usually like,
that was an easy one.
Easy, super easy for me. Sometimes.
And you posted it on your
go check it out. Instagram. Like you
Odyssey Shawn Moore Instagram page. And you did a little collage over the years.
Yeah. I showed every single year what we were we started doing this when the kids were born. So this they're 13. So this was our 14th Halloween. And it was, and so I posted all 14. Go check it out.
That's awesome. Yep. Good. Well, let's jump into something that is come up recently, and it's a little bit of a challenging topic for short-term rental owners. It's insurance and getting the right insurance. Not only as a short-term rental owner, but also as a homeowner. It's super important. You want to get the best price, but you also want to get the best coverage. And so as I go through this, this was a question that was posted in our school platform, in our community, our Empire Club. And it was really about, our insurance rates have gone up for our short-term rental property. And how do I mitigate that? And I've actually chosen to go with another insurance, carrier. And so we reached out to our insurance, kind of our recommended partners, Proper Insurance. We know they do a good job. Their policies are a little more expensive, but they do an amazing job, and their policies are great for short-term rentals, and the protection is awesome. And so we got a response from them. And I think this is telling for those who are considering to make sure you dive in and understand what your plan is. So I'm just going to read the response, and this will help understand. Personal liability is the term used for an offering received as a homeowner's HO, from which is designated for properties that are your residence, premises, or primary home. The insurance forms used are almost always ISO forms, Insurance Services Office Incorporated, which are standard across most all carriers. So whatever carrier you use, that's kind of the form that is used. The ISO form on personal liability exclude business activities, which is a short-term rental, over $2,500 or more in income, and provide personal liability, which also has a business activity exclusion. Most of these HO policies have an option for a renter rider. However, it is ISO form language also states that rental must be as a residence or a long-term rental. Even if the HO form isn't calling out residence or primary, you will not have loss of income, but loss of rents. Loss of rents is a lesser form of coverage, only paying out the fair market value, not your actual loss of income on the property. So that's super important. These policies also void a bed bug coverage, special guest cost damage enhancement, extensions of liability to amenity offerings, and possibly much more. Do your independent research on these topics to make sure that the coverage that you're getting covers your investment as a short-term rental, not just as a personal investment.
Yeah, and this is a really important topic that because most of our short-term rentals are just single-family homes, right? And so, as a single-family home, your mortgage company is going to say, "Hey, listen, you have to have full coverage on it." They just want a homeowner's policy. Homeowners policies are not going to cover business activities, like you just said. They're going to cover business activities, below $2,500 for the year. Well, most of our short-term rentals are making a heck of a lot more than that, right? And so, now all of a sudden you've got this exclusion. We're not going to cover this, and what do all of those exclusions, like on your exclusions page, and you say we're covering that, you got this policy, here's what we're not covering. Everybody needs to look at that, and you need to see what you're covered for. And what I think is more important and the easier place to start is go look for a purpose-built insurance provider like Proper Insurance. I think they're the gold standard by far. And they might be the most expensive option that you look at, maybe not, but sometimes they are a little bit more expensive, but they're the most comprehensive coverage you're going to have. Insurance is meant to mitigate our risk, and it's meant for us to be able to say, hey, listen, I feel like all these activities, this major asset, all this money I put in is going to be protected should something happen. And if something happens and let's say you have, how a guest burns down a house and you're like, well, I'm insured. I've got insurance. And the insurance company says, well, sorry, you're not allowed to have, guests in there, and they're the ones that caused the fire. So go after them and see if they'll rebuild your house. We're not paying for it. And so you have to make sure, or let's say a guest gets hurt at your property. Insurance comes and says their insurance, or they sue you, and all of a sudden you look at the insurance and say, hey, I need to be covered for this because a guest got hurt at my house. They're going to say, oh, no, we don't cover your guest, right? And so your homeowner's policy is not going to cover a lot of the activities in the short-term rental world that we have to deal with. And so I think the easiest place for somebody to start Go to proper.insure, get a quote, see everything they cover. And then when you get other quotes, compare them. So you're not just comparing, you need to be comparing apples to apples. And you'll find that you're not comparing apples to apples. You're going to find that there's a lot of exclusions on that page. And then you, as the investor, as the owner of that asset, need to say, what is my risk tolerance, right? I'm okay not having that covered, or, hey, I'd really like to have that covered,
and
right?
Insurance is a necessary evil. You have to have it, and it's important. So understand what the policy covers. And, when you run your numbers and you're doing the underwriting and analysis of the property to make sure that it even works, make sure you know those numbers, because that's an important number that you're planning on. And if you're planning on X amount and all of a sudden it's a lot higher than that, then those numbers are skewed. And now the investment is a little bit different. So you have to understand that as well.
For sure. And insurance, listen, none of us, we were just talking about taxes a minute ago. Insurance is another one of the things that none of us like to pay.
Right.
None of us like to talk about. None of us like to see that expense item, because it's like, we're super glad when we have the right policy, but we hate writing that check for it because, and in a lot of areas and in the country, it's going up significantly because of all these major storms and disasters and everything else. The insurance companies are saying, hey, we're going to pass this bill on to the consumer. And so a lot of people are shopping policies around. Make sure that when you're shopping policies, you're not just looking at that dollar amount that you're paying. Make sure that the coverage that you want and that you feel like you need, which is a personal choice a lot of times, that you're covered for what you, and your risk tolerance is making sure that is mitigated with the policy and it matches that.
Good. Okay, we got one time for one question. So,
okay.
And this, we're going to stay with the insurance, kind of theme today. Insurance deductible. So we had a question within our community. It was a good question. It was a new short-term rental owner, new to the game. We're supporting them and helping them kind of walk through this. And they're asking, what should I feel is the right amount of the coverage in a deductible on a one-bedroom condo? So that's a tough question to ask, because there's a lot of things that you have to consider, how much you make, where the property is, who the guests are, all that kind of stuff. But what's the advice you would give to somebody? Say, what should my deductible be for my property? Yeah,
I would. The number one question you ask yourself is how much damage would I have to have before I would make a claim? Right. And that might be different for everybody. Somebody might say, if I've got $2,000 damage, I want the insurance to pick it up. For me, I have a $10,000 deductible on mine. I'm like, I'm not going to make a claim if it's not more than $10,000. And so that's a personal question. But the question is, how much damage should I have in a property before I'm going to call the insurance company? Now, because there's consequences to making claims. Sometimes your providers, your costs go up, your insurance costs go up. Sometimes your providers will cancel you after a big claim. They shouldn't, but sometimes that happens. There's times where that you have a claim and then you go get another property and they ask you, have you ever made insurance claims? And they're like, yes, I have. Okay, well, maybe we're going to cover you. Maybe we're not. Like, there's a lot of consequences to making claims. And so we don't make claims unless they're major claims. And so for me, I go as high of a deductible as possible. Usually it's around that $10,000 on a policy. And then I have supplemental insurance for guest damages, right? Because I'm never going to make a claim. For me personally, I'm not making a claim for less than $10,000. And it's not worth it. I don't feel like the consequences long-term are worth it. You need to decide what that is for you. It's a personal decision, right? And then secondly is I would not suggest ever using it for incidental damage that a guest does, because there's better policies like Wavo is out there. There's other policies that we use, and their damage insurance policies.
Some of that.
The guest covers it a lot of times. It's $59. Charge your guest $59 for every stay that they come in, and sometimes some of them cover up to $3,500 in damage. Some of them cover up to $5,000 in damage, and almost all of your guest damage is going to be insignificant. And it's going to be, a couple $100 here, couple $100 there. Sometimes it's over $1,000. And that supplemental insurance is really good to have in those instances.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, buddy, good conversation today.
I kept it kind of clean on the political side. Do you like that?
I think, all right. We got a few months here towards the end of the year. Let's do everything we can to start off the new year right. Let's put in the work. Let's get after it. You and I, we've been through competitions and sports, and like, we're competitive. And I think most of the people in the country want to succeed. And let's put our heads down. Let's get a shovel. Let's get after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's get after it. Just like you said, start taking action, right? There's a big major event that we all went through just now with the election. A lot of people were waiting to take action. Our advice is, listen, now let's start moving forward. Let's start figuring out, the playing field that we have to go play on. and then try to stack the odds in our favor, mitigate our risks, accelerate and take advantage of the things that are in our advantage, and start moving forward and just taking some action. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Good
Okay,
job.
guys. Always at the end of the episodes, I always appreciate you and thank you for spending your time with us. We know how valuable it is, and it means a lot that you spend it with us. If you guys know anybody else that would like to be a part of these conversations and walk into the short-term rental game with their eyes wide open, share the show. Those things help us grow this show. If you have more than 30 seconds, like it, review it on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And the final, most important thing that I ask you at the end of every episode is pick that one thing you can do today to start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodacy.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.